An election year means lots of ads from those fighting for office.
Yeah, but one South Jordan man decided it was time to get Gephardt when some of the mailers he was receiving from one representative showed that it was paid for by taxpayer dollars. That's been investigating.
Hey guys, we have been digging into this one since early July, and as you're about to see, we ran into a couple of roadblocks along the way. This all has to do with mailers like this one. It looks pretty similar to campaign ads that might be showing up at your door right now. But this one, you paid for it. Another day, another piece of mail from Richard Silva's Congresswoman, Mia Love.
Yeah, I've received 3 of them within 3 weeks.
But what has Richard concerned is who paid for these mailers.
What struck me is that it's paid for at taxpayers' expense.
That's right, take a look. On each piece of mail Richard has received from Love's office, it reads, quote, "This mailing was prepared, published, and mailed at taxpayer expense."
I don't think it's appropriate.
Not appropriate because Richard says that to him, this looks a lot like campaigning.
She doesn't really come out and say, vote for me, but look what I've done.
And it all has Richard curious. Is this against the rules?
I thought, well, who could I call? I mean, I thought of Matt Gephardt.
It turns out, no, Richard. Sending mailers on the taxpayer's dime is not against the rules. Still, there are rules. A politician is not allowed to use these mailers to campaign, and the mailers have to be nonpartisan. But perhaps the biggest rule, absolutely everything that is sent to your mailbox must also be sent to regulators in Washington, D.C., which make all of this taxpayer-funded mail public record. So, through a public records request, we received and reviewed the budgets for all 4 of Utah's elected representatives, Rob Bishop, Jason Chaffetz, Chris Stewart, and Mia Love. And our investigation found that not all Congress members are equal in their spending on these mailers. Representative Bishop spent a mere $844, and none of that on mass mailers, but rather individual letters to people who got their Eagle Scouts. Jason Chaffetz spent $12,000 on 25,000 mass mailers. Representative Stewart spent $59,000, and he sent out more than 300,000 mass mailers. But coming in way above her colleagues, Mia Love, who spent $127,000 between January of 2015 and June of 2016 and sent out a whopping 810,000 mass mailers. As for what the mailers say, well, back in August, we asked all 4 of Utah's representatives to send us copies of all of their mass mailers for the past 2 years. Chaffetz, Bishop, and Stewart each agreed, and the mailers showed that the vast majority of what was sent out was either a constituent survey or making constituents aware of a town hall meeting. But as for Representative Love, her office would only send us 1 copy of one of the mailers that she sent out, along with a statement that reads, quote, "This communication method is extremely important to let constituents know what the congressperson is doing and the services their office provides." To see the rest of the mailers, we had to go digging. We sent our Washington, D.C. sister station in person to the archives and asked them to photocopy every single one of Love's mailers. Like her colleagues, many offer constituent surveys and notices of town hall meetings, but not all of them, and some do appear to be a tad more campaigny. This one, for example, which declares she is standing up for Utah students, parents, and teachers, and talks about how she's voted on certain bills. This one, which brags about an enterprise award that she got from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, or this full-page mailer, which boasts about a number of bills she has sponsored, including, full disclosure, one that came about after a Get Gephardt investigation into military benefits. In the past week, we reached out multiple times to ask Representative Love for an on-camera interview about all of this. She has not responded. So it's all legal, but as for Richard, he says he'd be just fine if from now on, his representative paid for her own mailers rather than letting taxpayers do it.
I try to send them back.
Now, there are blackout dates that limit when members of Congress can send out these taxpayer-funded mailers, and there is a hard cutoff, 60 days before voting day in an election year. So even though the election is a mere 35 days away, to my producer and my knowledge, every single example of the mailers that we showed in this story went out before that 60-day deadline in compliance with the rules. If you got something you want me to investigate, let me know about it. My number, 801-839-1250, or you can email me, Gephardt.